We've been talking about negotiations, and I can't resist showing you, this is not now negotiations between us and the Kodesh Baruch Hu, but Near Eastern negotiations, how they go. The beautiful, detailed illustration at the beginning of this week's Parsha of what it means to negotiate in the ancient Near East, and I think it follows out till this very time. Take a look at page 107. Chapter 23. Bereshit. Page 107. Sarah dies, and Abraham wants to find a place to bury her. Start with verse 7. Let's start with verse 3. Abraham rose up from the presence of his dead and spoke to the children of Ches, the local population, saying, I'm an alien and a resident among you. I wasn't born from your stock. I'm not a native to your culture, but I am a resident. I do live here. Grant me an estate. Now, no one in the last 100 years has used the word grant the way it's used here. Grant means give. The word in Hebrew is tain. Give me an estate for a burial site with you, that I may bury my dead from before me. And the children of Ches answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my Lord. You are a prince of God in our midst. In the choicest of our burial places, bury your dead. Any of us will not withhold his burial place from you, from burying your dead. Okay, Abraham asked for something and they gave an answer. Was the answer yes or no? Look carefully at what Abraham asked for. Look carefully at what they offer and tell me whether the answer was yes or no.
I don't know. It's convoluted. It's a little convoluted, no?
It's convoluted, all right. That's true. It's definitely convoluted.
It looks like a yes.
Okay, I have one vote for yes.
It sounds like an invitation to make a bid.
Sounds like an invitation to make a bid. What is Abraham asking for?
An estate for a burial site.
An estate. What's an estate? What does give mean? Give me an estate. What does that mean?
A plot of land.
Well, what's the Hebrew word would be my question.
Say it again.
What's the Hebrew word? Does it translate to estate? I mean...
Achuzah. Achuzah means possession, literally in Hebrew. So they use a fancy word because they're translating the Bible. Okay. Tenu li achuzas kever. An estate possession with you. He wants to own the land. Give me an estate that I own, my possession. Make me the owner of the land. Put the deed in my name. What do they say? They say, Hear us, my Lord. You're a prince of God in our midst. In the choicest of our burial places, bury your dead. We'll let you have a plot in our cemetery. Ours belongs to us. The name of the deed is B'nai Ches. We'll let you bury it in our cemetery. Right? Any of us will not withhold his burial place from burying your dead. It belongs to him. He'll just let you bury your dead in his burial place. The answer they're giving him is no. A very icing on the cake. No, you're a prince of God in our midst. You're really the top of the top. But what you asked for, N-O. You're not getting it. That's round one in the negotiation. Are you clear with me? You see what I'm saying in the text? Okay, now round two. Verse 7. Abraham rose up and bowed down to the members of the council. So he said to them, saying, If it is truly your will to bury my dead from before me, heed me, which means to obey, do what I ask, and intercede for me with Ephron ben Sochar. Go to him and talk to him on my behalf. Let him give me the cave of Machpelah, which is his, on the edge of his field. Let him give it to me for its full price in your midst as a possession for a burial site. So Abraham's not giving up. Twice he says give. Then he says, I'll pay. So you have to understand, what does give mean if you're going to pay anyway? And then he says, and the result should be that it's my possession. Achuzah. Now, the idea of giving and for full price, one easy way to explain it is this. The person owns a Picasso. And I go to him and I say, listen, I've checked on the open market and I checked the various sources. That Picasso on the open market is worth $157 million. I'm offering you 180 because I want it. He might say, I'm sorry, but it's not for sale. The price you're offering is a good price. That's true. But I want the picture. I'm not about to sell it for $100 million. I'm not going to do it. $200 million, $1 billion, I'm not going to do it. I want the picture. There are two elements in a sale. One is the willingness to sell, and the second is the price. So he says, I'm asking for it as a gift that he should agree to me to sell it to me. Furthermore, I'm prepared to pay anything he wants. Any price he wants, I want it, I'll pay anything that he wants. But 3 times he says, give, and it's a state, it belongs to me. Okay? That's his petition to Ephron. Now watch Ephron's answer. Ephron was sitting in the midst of the children of Ches, Ephron the Achiti, replied, Abraham in hearing, all those who come to his gate, say, 11. No, my Lord, heed me. I have given you the field. And so the cave that is in it, I've given it to you. In the view of the children of my people, I have given it to you. Bury your dead. Carefully now. What Abraham asked for, is he saying yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Half of it is yes. Give. Give means he's going to lose possession. Going to lose title. That's right. But Abraham put in another stipulation, didn't he? What other stipulation did Abraham put in?
Pay.
I want to pay for it. He said for its full price. When Ephron begins his speech with the word no, that's not a joke. That's not a throwaway. If he says no, there's got to be something that Abraham said that he's not accepting. See, he says, I'll compromise with you. You want possession? I'll give you possession. But I don't want you to pay. And the proof of it is the next interaction. I'm going to go back and explain this in a moment, but watch. Abraham bowed down. He spoke to Ephron. This is verse 13. Saying, rather, and rather is not a joke, I'm not agreeing with you. What you said, by the way, let me point this out. In Ephron's speech, he says give how many times?
3.
How many times did Ephron say give in his speech?
1, 2, 3.
3. He says it 3 times. Because Abraham said give twice and said for a possession 3. He says give. Yes. It'll be yours. Definitely be yours. But Abraham added the stipulation he wants to pay for it. That's the no in Ephron's words. No, I'm not agreeing to the payment. Now you have to ask yourself, well, why would you not agree for the payment? I'll show you in a minute. But I'll show you that that's what the issue is. So Abraham, in verse 12, says, rather, as opposed to what you just said, Ephron, I'm not accepting it. If only you would heed me, I give the price of the field. Accept it from me. Abraham's insisting on paying for it. And that's the rather. You said you would give it to me for nothing. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to pay for it. And then Ephron agrees. Now, what's the idea of paying for it? Well, let's imagine that he doesn't pay. Let's imagine that he accepts Ephron's largesse, Ephron's generosity, and he takes the field. And let's suppose that 3 years later, Abraham does something that Ephron doesn't like. And Ephron says, "You did this to me? I gave you the field, and you did this to me? You don't deserve the field. I made a mistake in giving it to you, taking it back, and we're the majority here, so just get off the land." Abraham wants it signed, sealed, and delivered. He wants it an absolute transaction. No matter what happens later, this can't be taken back. When you accept money, then it's over. So he wants him to pay, and Ephron, for the same reason, doesn't want him to pay. Because Ephron says, if I give it to you as a gift, it's not totally yours. You have to play ball with us. You have to do what the kinds of things that we like. Otherwise, I can take it back. It's not really given away. You have it, but I can always get it back if I need to. And Ephron doesn't want that. He wants an absolute sale. So on the surface, everybody's so nice to one another. Everybody's so appreciative. Everybody's so complimentary to one another. And the whole time, they're stabbing themselves in the back. Stabbing the other guy in the back. That's Middle Eastern negotiations. I wanted once to go to the United Nations and give this speech and say, "I'm sorry, my dear friends who live in Iowa, you don't understand this. You don't understand that this is the way negotiations go." And people talk, some of the press, Hamas is violating the terms of the agreement. Of course. Of course we're doing it. Of course. That's what we do. We violate agreements. Of course. No question about it. If we can get an advantage, we can show you we're really in control, we can show you really not under your thumb, we'll do it. We said so, so what if we said so? What's that got to do with anything? Adarabba, we said so we can violate it to show that we're not under your thumb. You know, a good-hearted American doesn't understand that. You gave your word. I'll tell you something I witnessed. I was here in 1964, before your grandparents were born. It was on King George Street, and there was a store which sold watches and clocks, run by a German Jew, an immigrant, like they all were at that time. And a Near Eastern Jew came in and wanted to buy something. He went over and he looked at the price. I don't know what it was. Let's say it was 100, whatever it was in those days. 100, let's say shekels. So he walks up to the owner of the store and he says, "I'll give you 50. The owner says, "The price is 100. That's what the sticker says, 100. So the Near Eastern Jew says, 70. Because the Near Eastern Jew is used to bargaining. The price that's written on it is just the opening bid. And then you bargain. And the German Jews, I put that price out, that's the price, period, pay it or leave. I saw this cultural mismatch going on. And by the way, when you go to the Arab shuk over here in Yerushalayim, and you see that item, and you see the label, and you pay the full price, when you walk out, they laugh. The American, look at that, he paid the whole price. That's Americans, they're so stupid. They don't understand that that's just an opening bargaining position. You could have had it for half. Okay, so that's Near Eastern negotiations. That's what I wanted to tell you about this. You live in a world where the culture is different. Now, I want to take you through the story of the golden calf. This is a very interesting, well-known, and very widely misunderstood story.
I have one question.
Yeah.
If Abraham would have been on the land for 3 years, wouldn't that be a chazaka that he owns the land?
No. No.
We're
You're beginning
learning
Chesed
about-
Sabbatim.
yeah.
Oh boy, that's a wonderful study. And the really sad thing is that after a few davening, Rashi runs out, and then you have to read the Rashbam, which is much longer, more complicated.
Right.
The idea of 3 years on the land is this: if you buy the land and you take possession and you inherit and you sit on it for 3 years, then you're not required to hold onto your bill of sale anymore. And if it gets lost and somebody challenges you, why are you on the land? You have to say two things. It's chazaka, ain't chazaka that doesn't have a taina. You have to say, I bought it. I didn't just live here, I bought it. Squatters' rights are nothing I bought it. And where's your star? It was after 3 years. The law doesn't require me to keep it for more than 3 years. But of course, that's only if you bought it, not if you just sat there. Okay. Okay. Well, this is chapter 32 in the book of Exodus. Now, I would like to do this in 2 runs, probably one today and one tomorrow. And here's what I want to focus on. This story is widely understood or misunderstood as a case of national idol worship. National idol worship. They built an idol and they worshiped the idol. I want to read through the story with that idea in mind and see what pieces of text might support that idea and what pieces of text might detract from that idea. And we'll end up with a list of questions, things that have to be understood. And the first lesson will be that if you don't have answers to these questions, you don't understand the story. And then we'll go back through a second time, and I'll give you what is unanimous, or almost unanimous among the commentators, the real story. And then you'll see how the pieces of text fit together. And you'll see that the initial impression is very far from the mark of simply understanding the words as they're written. Now, of course, we're going to read it in English. Sometimes the Hebrew translation is a little different, and I will point that out. So today, I want to go through, if somebody's taking notes, it would be good to just make a record of the questions that we raised, so that when we go back through it a second time, we can make sure we make an honest effort to answer all the questions. So, on page 493, chapter 32, the people saw that Moses delayed in descending the mountain. And the people gathered around Aaron and said to him, "Rise up, make for us gods." Well, that's pretty relevant. I would say it sort of signs it in blood, like makes for us gods. Isn't the story over? Of course, this was idol worship. It says make for us gods. So we have noted that. It's on the table. It's a piece of important text supporting the idea that it was idol worship. Keep that in mind, and let's keep going. Make for us gods that will go before us. That will go before us. Well, they are in the wilderness, right? Okay. Maybe a path through the wilderness is a difficulty, and you'd like to have supernatural guidance on the trek that you're going on. But gee, don't gods do other things besides lead you through the wilderness? How about war and peace? How about fruitful agriculture? How about children? How about health and long life? Is it the only thing that you would want from your new religion and the gods, a trek through the wilderness? When you get to your destination, say goodbye and have no religion? It's a little funny that if they're wanting gods, if they're looking for something to worship, that the only function they mention is, should go before us in the wilderness. So that's a little problem that we should keep in mind. Now, why are we asking you to, for now, I'm going to change it later, but for now, make us gods go before us? Because this man Moses, who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we do not know what became of him. Oh, Moses is missing. Moses is missing. That's a problem. He's the leader. So the solution to the missing Moses is get a new religion. Do you see an obvious connection between the problem and the solution? Moses is missing, therefore we should have new gods. Did they deify Moses? Did they think that Moses was a god? What does the verse we just read say? Look at it again and tell me whether they deified him or not. There's a word there that seals it.
Yeah, it says, who brought us up from the land of of Egypt, as opposed to Hashem brought us out of the land of Egypt, which we say every day.
Okay, fine, but that doesn't prove one way or the other whether they thought of him as a god or not. You're missing the word. There's one word there.
Man.
How about, it says, this man, Moses. Hello, they put it in black and white. This man, Moses. Don't tell me this presages Christianity where a man could be God. that's like, that's off the page. Right? So they are not under any illusions. This man is missing. Therefore, we should get a new religion. I think that's really peculiar. You have to explain that. That's two problems. Okay, verse 2. Aaron said to them, remove the rings of gold in the ears of your wives, sons, and daughters, and bring them to me. People have removed the gold rings in their ears, brought to Aaron. That's interesting, fascinating, and important, but not for our purposes of whether it's idol worship or not. So I'm going to skip that. He took it, that is to say, the bundle of gold, from their hands, and bound it up in a cloth, and fashioned it into a molten calf. They said, now, the translation, if it's going to be the same as the top of the page, which is the same words in Hebrew, it should read, these are your gods, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Egypt. So again, they said, these are your gods, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Egypt. Do you sense some problems here with this statement?
Yeah. It's not Aaron's. Aaron fashioned the molten calf, but it's they're saying this is your God, O Israel. They've accepted the deification of the golden calf, even when Aaron has not explicitly said so.
Okay. I think that's a sensitivity. But there's another problem that's much more on the surface and much more crushing. What do they say that this...
They've just fashioned it now. How could it have taken...
Excuse me, it just came into existence 5 minutes ago, and you're telling me that this would have took us out of Egypt months ago? Sorry, that's a little difficult to swallow. That's one thing that's a problem. Secondly, if you accept the words as we're translating them, it's plural, whereas there's only one calf. And thirdly, who's speaking?
The people.
Well then, who are they speaking to?
Said to Aaron.
No, it says,
speaking to
this is your God, O Israel. So they're speaking to Israel. Up until now, there have been two subjects on the stage, Aaron and the people. Suddenly there's a plural, they, some they or other, and they're speaking to Israel and saying to Israel, this is your God or these are your gods. So, in the context of this chapter, there's nobody there to identify it with. So we're going to have to find out, eventually, who the they is. Okay? So in this little piece of text here, there are three questions. Now, verse 5 is a bomb. Aaron built an altar before him or it. Aaron called out and said, a festival for Hashem tomorrow. When the English writes Hashem, what do you have in the Hebrew? The Tetragrammaton, the four-letter Hebrew name, proper name of the Jewish God. The Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. So look at the scenario that these people who hold this are envisioning. People say, make us gods, switch your religion, Egyptian calf worship or something else, right? And he agrees, and he makes them this calf. And then they say, tomorrow will be a festival to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Moses. Isn't that a little bizarre? I mean, they were abandoning that. They were getting a new religion, right? Why don't they string him up from the nearest tree? That's not what we asked for. You gave us a molten calf. What are you talking about Hashem for? This sentence is a bomb. It has to be understood. You have to have a reasonable scenario where this sentence makes sense. Yeah.
Is the microphone still on? It's still on your...
It fell off. The top fell off. Here it is. It's under the table. Can you get it? Thank you very much. Look at that. Maybe a sweeping gesture if I knocked it off. Because it is magnetized. Okay. So, that's something we have to try to understand. Let's keep going. Verse 6. They rose up early the next day, offered up elevation offerings, brought peace offerings. People sat down to eat and drink. They got up to revel. In modern English, to party. Shem spoke to Moses. Go, descend. For your people that you brought up from the land of Egypt. You mentioned that as a Baptist reference to God. Here's God speaking to Moses, saying that he brought them up. So it can't mean that bringing them up is a sign of being God, right? You follow what I'm saying? Go descend, for your people that you brought up from the land of Egypt has become corrupt. They have strayed quickly from the way that I have commanded them. Comma. Punctuation here is incorrect. They have made themselves a golden calf. Semicolon. That's where the middle of the sentence is. They prostrated themselves to it, sacrificed to it. They said, again, to keep the translation consistent, these are your gods, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Egypt. Now, verse 7 is an announcement that there's been a crime. Verse 8 is the indictment. I want you to play lawyer for a minute and tell me, how many counts are there in the indictment? How many crimes does the indictment describe?
In verse 8 or verse 7?
Just verse 8. 7 is just an announcement that criminal activity has taken place. They become corrupt. 8 is the list of the crimes.
5, yeah.
Well, I have 2 votes for 5. Also 5.
4.
Okay, he says 4. How many?
3.
3. Okay, good. So now, they say 5. You tell me what the 5 are.
Is it one?
What's that?
Is it only one?
That's what I was thinking.
We might have put it on the table. We got 5, 4, 3, and 1 now. But you said 5, right? You voted for 5.
No, you can't just be one.
You're changing his mind. Okay,
Why
let's
not?
hear. You say there's
It's all
5?
idol worship.
Because you have molten calf,
It's all idol
Yeah,
worship.
it is.
and then you prostrate to the molten calf. Because you can't just say,
Idol
oh, they
worship.
made a statue. Now they prostrate to themselves. That's 2.
Yeah.
The question is prostration and sacrifice. Are they 1 or 2?
One. Idol
There are
worship.
2.
So
Prostration is a
there are two,
personal
then-
action. Sacrifice is offering something to it.
So, I don't think, and they said would be included in this list, although it.
So you're now down to 3.
I'll go for it.
Huh? You say 5. Let's hear your 5, and then we'll
Okay.
see which people
So-
don't want to accept.
They have strayed quickly away from that I have commanded them. They have made themselves a molten calf, prostrated themselves to it, and sacrificed to it. And they said, "This is your God, O Israel, which brought you up from the land of Egypt."
Okay, that's 5 clauses in verse 8. There are those 5 clauses, and he's identifying all 5 as crimes. Those of you who said smaller numbers, which of the 5 would you like to subtract?
To be what?
So, he's saying there are 5 crimes. Some said 4 and some said 3. So I want to know which of the 5 that he mentioned do those who say 4 and 3 want to subtract. They're not accepting all 5 that he said.
I think I would accept those as 5 individual counts.
You're going along with 5, okay?
I feel like the first thing, which is they have strayed quickly from the way that I've commanded them. I feel like that's in a way introducing the next 4. They've strayed from what I commanded them because they have made a molten calf, they prostrate themselves to it, etc., etc.
I think you're right. I don't think straying quickly from the path that I commanded them is a separate crime. Let me give you an analogy to make the point that I want to make. The police officer brings the criminal in front of the judge. The judge says, "What did he do?" And the police officer says, "He stole a car." So the judge writes down auto theft. And he ran a red light. Okay, traffic violation. And the third thing, Your Honor, that he did is he broke the law. Well, he broke the law is not the name of a crime. There's no law in the books which says don't break the law. It would be empty, wouldn't prohibit anything.
And
Straying quickly from the path. Is there a yellow brick road in the wilderness and we stepped off the yellow brick road? Clearly that's poetry for they failed me. But it's not a separate crime. The crimes are making the statue, prostrating to the statue, offering the statue, and making a statement that this is your God or God's. Statements can be forbidden also. Some things are forbidden to say. So that can also be a crime. But the first one isn't a description of a crime. And you, I think now said, or who said it, that that's like an introduction, right? You said it. So now, if it's an introduction, we have to ask what it's doing there because verse 7 is already an introduction. It says they became corrupt. What do I need a second introduction for? And that will be a key to understanding the scenario when we get to the scenario. So I'm putting that also on the table. Okay, that's the initial stage. There's a lot of interesting and important material in between, but it's not relevant to the discussion that I'm interested in, which is the discussion of idol worship. So now move to page 501.
You can't all be one crime. It couldn't all be one crime of idol worship.
You know, if a person
Whatever.
steals a person's wallet and steals his web phone and steals his hat and steals his car, it's all theft, but it's 4 thefts. It's 4 crimes. Each one was forbidden to steal.
If someone steals a wallet, he doesn't steal the credit card, the money, the ID. He stole the wallet.
Well, he might do that, but then if he does it in separate action, making the statue is one action, bowing down is another action, offering sacrifices to it is a third action, and the fourth is making an announcement. Those aren't one compound action. So they definitely qualify, and they come under different jurisdictions. Because making a statue for idol worship is not idol worship. It's an accessory to idol worship. It's like making guns is not murder. It may be wrong, may be forbidden, but it's not murder. And making a statement like these are your gods is not the same thing as bowing down. Okay. There are separate verses that prohibit these things. Separate verses that prohibit these different things. So, okay, let's take page 501. After Moses comes down and he destroys the calf and everything else, at the top of the page, Moses stood at the gateway of the camp. He said, "Whoever is for Hashem, join me," meaning anybody who was faithful, anyone who didn't participate in this tragedy, join me. And all the Levites gathered around him. The tribe of Levi didn't participate. Just as a footnote, which we will probably consider later, neither did the women. Only the men.
but surely taking off all of their gold jewellery and giving it to Aaron is an act of...
Well, since you asked, just take a look back. Take a look back on page 495. And notice what happens here. Verse 2, Aaron said to them, "Remove the rings of gold out of the ears of your wives, sons, and daughters, and bring it to me." 3 says, the entire people removed the gold rings that were in their ears. That doesn't say they did what they were told. Who's the entire people? Well, it's the adults, it's not the children. We're not interested in the 4-year-olds taking it out of their ears. Our tradition tells us that they didn't do what they were told. You know why? Because they tried. This is why I mentioned the why. Because Reuven comes to Sadie in the tent. "Sadie, your earrings." "Really, Reuven? What for?" And he said, "We have a project. Oh, really? A project? You mean a general national project?" "Yeah, a national project." "Who certified it, Reuven? Did you get a note from Moses, maybe? You know, have you been in contact with him?" "Well, Moses is missing, so we have a committee." "Oh, you have your own committee, and you want my earrings?" "Forget it, Charlie. I'm giving you my earrings." And the children said, the children refused, the woman protected them, and that's why it's the people who gave. They didn't go and get it from their children, like the verse 2 says. And that's how we know that the movement didn't participate, which is a gigantic privilege and how should I say, merit that the women had that they didn't participate in this. Okay, so now, he said to them, verse 27, so said Hashem, the God of Israel, every man put his sword on his thigh, pass back and forth from gate to gate in the camp, let every man kill his brother, every man his fellow, and every man his near one. And the Levites did as Moses said, and about 3,000 men of the people fell. Yeah, there it is, word for word again. Oh, of the people, only men fell. Okay, about 3,000. Okay, now skip down to the bottom of the page. Then Hashem struck the people with a plague because they had made the calf which Aaron had made. Nowhere is it written what the number of people who died in this plague is. But we have a census of the Jewish people before this incident, we have a census of the Jewish people after this incident, and the difference in numbers is very small. So if you have 1,200,000 adults, men and women over the age of 20, and you have 3,000 who were killed by the Levites, and let's add another 10,000 who are killed in the plague, 95% of the population is not touched. Doesn't the question leap off the page? What's the difference between those whom the Levites killed and those who were killed in the plague, which is 2%, and the 98% who remained alive? If your impression of this story is that it's national idol worship, they all gather together in idol worship, how could it be that a tiny, tiny group dies at the hands of the Levites, and a tiny group dies in the plague, and the vast, vast majority don't die at all? How do you explain that? So that's another really important question that needs to be dealt with. Finally, in the middle here on page 501, verse 30, and the next day Moses spoke to the people. You have committed a grievous sin. Grievous means very, very bad. And now I shall ascend to Hashem. Perhaps I can win atonement in the face of your sin. Wow. You've done something terrible. Maybe Hashem will forgive or attenuate the circumstances. Think back to verse 8. They made the calf. They bowed down to it. They offered sacrifices to it. They announced that this is their God. Pretty bad. So Moses says, maybe if I go up to Hashem and I pray, maybe I can get some kind of mercy. Okay, now here it goes. Then Moses returned to Hashem and said, I implore, I'm begging you, this people has committed a grievous sin and made themselves, manufactured, created a god of gold. Well, that's true. They did make it. They definitely did. But that's not all they did. They made it, and they prostrated themselves to it, and they offered sacrifices to it, and they identified it as their God. Let me ask you intuitively, what would you think is more serious? Making the statue, on the one hand, they didn't even say making the statue for the purpose of idol worship, making the statue. Or on the other hand, bowing down to it, offering sacrifices to it, and declaring it to be your God. Which would you say is the worst crime?
The latter.
Isn't the latter a much worse crime than just manufacturing it? So why would Moses go up to God and say, this people has done a grievous sin, a terrible sin, and now I want some mercy for them. Please have mercy on their making the statue.
Lashon hara.
Silence. If he were my defense attorney, I would say, your credit is over, I'm getting somebody else. What about the other 3 crimes? Why not asking for mercy for the other 3 crimes? Just this crime?
Because of not the other 3 crimes.
very, very difficult to understand these details. So, the first thing that I want to register is that if you don't have answers to these questions, you don't know what happened. And if you don't know what happened, figuring out who's guilty and why they're guilty and how guilty they are and what the future holds and so forth and so on is premature, because you don't know what happened. So tomorrow, what we will do, Yeshivat Hashem, is to go back through the story from the beginning with a key idea. We'll have to question some of the translations. And I will justify the revising of the translations by quoting other places in the very same book where the way it's understood is verified. And I will show you that the story has an entirely different moral, has an entirely different message than the message that we were working with up until now. Okay? And if you want to look at it in the meantime, or you want to look into the commentators, that's fine. You know? It doesn't have to be a surprise for tomorrow. I'm just preparing you for rethinking it and coming out with a different impression.
But how do we know the women didn't participate because they didn't remove the earrings themselves? The men did it of their own ears?
That's right. In other words, the men were told, get their earrings.
Yeah.
Men weren't told to take off their earrings at all. They were told, get their earrings. And then the next verse says, the men took off their earrings. But that's not what they were told to do. So the Midrash fills in what happened. They tried. They didn't just rebel. They weren't too lazy to walk to the tent, which is half a mile away. They tried, but the women refused. And they protected their children. So the men had to suffice with their own earrings.
So it must have been a pretty small calf. 3,000 men only having earrings?
No. Who says 3,000? We're talking now about building the calf. Could very well be that everybody participated in building the calf. After all, when Moses asked for those who are faithful to join him, it's only the Levites. It's only the Levites. So all the men participated, minus the Levites, participated in creating the calf.
We're not worshipping, sacrificing, calling it
Well,
out.
that will be the story. That's the story that we have to explain. Right? So that's the idea. You have to divide up. Where you have a contradiction, the medieval said, make a distinction. So where you have contradictory descriptions, the way to handle it is to say, this description is a description of this group of people, and this description is a description of that group of people. And then you can solve contradictions that way. So that's part of what we'll do tomorrow.
Thank you.